As a prepper, I look at every store I walk into a little bit differently. My eyes are peeled for those items I could stash away to make sure that my family's taken care of no matter what happens. I look for bargains, deals, and unique items that can take our preparedness to the next level. There was one store in particular I wanted to check out because I'd only been there once before in my whole life. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. There are some stores that don't exactly scream prepper paradise. Stores you may not think of off the top of your head when it comes to preparing for emergencies. But some of these stores can hold hidden gems. And sometimes the fact that it's the last store you'd think of can be a bonus because it's also the last store that everyone else thinks of as well. And those can sometimes end up being the last place you can find what you need after panic buying has stripped the shelves at Walmart, Costco, and all your regular supermarkets. So it's always good to know what kind of prepper pantry items a store might hold. Trader Joe's is a store that I was not very familiar with. The closest one is about an hour away from us, and even though in the grand scheme of things, that really isn't that far, it's far enough that I've only ever been in the store one time, probably close to 20 years or so ago. I want to hear from you down in the comments. Do you have a Trader Joe's near you? Do you shop there? And if so, what are your favorite things that you get there? I do hear a lot about this store and about the things that they carry. So I want to go and check it out again and look at it this time through my prepper glasses. So we're taking a free day to head down to Trader Joe's. The first thing I'll say is it was very busy and very crowded. Our last new store experience had been the brand new Aldi, which was pretty empty and peaceful in comparison. The busy and crowded part was definitely neither of our favorites, that's for sure. But we fought off the crowds, and let's see what we found for prepper pantry possibilities. And at the end, I'm going to show you my haul of what I brought home to try for myself. Let's start with those old prepper standbys, beans and rice. Most people store these because of their long shelf life and because they're extremely inexpensive, and together they can be a source of complete protein. Trader Joe's has a relatively small rice selection. And the one thing that really stood out to me here is they didn't have just plain white rice, which is the cheapest and most common choice for preppers. They had things like basmati and jasmine, which are also types of white rice, and they're very nice rice. They did have some fairly large bags of these. They even had other grains like farro and quinoa. As far as beans, one thing was notably missing here: dry beans. They had a fairly good selection of canned beans, but no dry beans anywhere to be found except for this bag of lentils. But when you take a step back, this might not be such a bad thing. So many people store dry beans because they do store just about forever. But what a lot of people end up discovering is that in an actual emergency, they just don't end up using those dry beans that they're storing. A lot of people just aren't familiar with cooking and using dry beans, for one thing. And dry beans are pretty energy intensive to cook. They generally need to be soaked for quite a long time, and then they cook for a very long time in order to make them soft and edible, especially if you don't have something like your Instant Pot to use. So they can be a drain on both water and fuel resources in an emergency. It just isn't very practical. The other factor is, yes, they can be stored a very long time without technically going bad, but the longer they're stored, the longer it takes for them to soften when they are cooked, until it just becomes just about impossible to make them edible. So unless you're using them regularly and keeping them rotated and have a good tested grid down method for cooking them, then the canned beans may actually be a better choice. They are cooked and ready to go right out of the can. The shelf life may not be as long, but canned foods will last a good while and definitely years past the dates that they stamp on those cans. I've eaten canned goods as far as 10 years past their dates. As long as the can stays intact, the food is generally fine. Canned food, of course, is another prepper staple, once again because of the long shelf life, and also because they're durable and they're budget friendly. I found the canned goods at Trader Joe's to be kind of limited. Besides the beans, they had a very limited selection of canned veggies. In fact, the only one we found was corn. And they had just a few canned soups and chilies. Notably, they didn't have any broth in cans either. They had it in cartons instead. They did have these broth concentrates, though, which I thought were pretty interesting. And they had a few more soups that were offered in these paper cartons as well. Although these cartons don't have as long of a shelf life as cans do, and they're not as durable, if you store them carefully, they can still store for a few years. So they're not something you should totally rule out for your prepper pantry. One thing you'll notice about Trader Joe's that contributes to the limited selection of canned goods and other things is that unlike a typical grocery store, they don't carry a wide variety of different brands. If you exclude wines, roughly about 80 to 90% of the products that you'll find at a Trader Joe's are their own private label. Now, one thing to note here is that Trader Joe's themselves don't actually manufacture all these products. They're manufactured for the Trader Joe's label by other companies, but those relationships are kept pretty close to the vest. But by negotiating directly with the manufacturers for private label products, they cut out a lot of things that drive up the cost of traditional big brands, like advertising and shelf placement, things like that. So it can keep the prices somewhat lower for the consumers. And then it also pays off in another way for us as customers. There's less decision making in the store. There's also a smaller, simpler footprint that allows for quicker, more streamlined shopping trips. Maybe this is part of why people seem to love Trader Joe's so much. Their business model allows them to offer some pretty interesting products at surprisingly good prices. That means there may be some really interesting preps hiding in this store. Their vegetable selection may be pretty simple, but I also found some really unique things like this canned eggplant and some stuffed grape leaves. They also have these Greek seasoned chickpeas, which are similar to the ones that we found and tried at Aldi's. And they have hearts of palm, and they have these pouches of marinated artichoke hearts, which I absolutely love. And I also found some pouch meals. If you watch the channel a lot, you know I'm a big fan of pouch meals like these. They may be made for the microwave, but they're great for bug out bags and any other places like that that you might want to stash a few just easy, complete, single-serve meals. They're more portable than cans, they don't require a can opener, and you can easily heat them up in a small pan or even right in the pouch in a bit of simmering water. You can even eat them at room temperature in a dire situation. Back to the cans though, Trader Joe's had quite the selection of canned fish. Everything from different types of tuna and salmon to sardines and oysters and even this calamari. They did just have this one type of canned chicken though. This is another prepper pantry staple for sure. They also had some canned coconut milk, and this is another thing that I like to keep in my prepper pantry. It's got a lot of good uses. Another category you can knock off your prepper pantry list here at Trader Joe's is pasta. Pasta is one of my favorite prepper pantry staples. It is inexpensive, it cooks quickly and easily, and most people like it. But what I think is most important is how versatile it is. It can become so many different meals. Not only are there an endless variety of pasta shapes, but there are also so many different sauces that can allow you to create very different meals from the basic pasta. Pasta can also serve as the base of a lot of other dishes like soups and casseroles. Our Trader Joe's did have a pretty good selection of pastas. Their basic pasta was well priced, costing about what I would pay at Walmart or any other grocery store on sale. They also had some fancier pastas. They had organic pasta and different healthier pastas made from things like lentils and chickpeas and whole wheat. I was especially intrigued by this lemon pasta. If you need some tips to help you when you're making a decision on what pasta type you want to store, take into account, number one, the cook time, and number two, how compactly they store. A pasta shape like orzo, for example, is going to cook pretty quickly, and a pound of orzo is not going to take up as much space as a bulkier pasta, but it's going to offer the same amount of food value. Trader Joe's didn't fall down in the sauce category either. There's many, many different varieties for endless meal possibilities. And then here with the sauce is also where we found the canned tomato products. You can also get a couple basic prepper pantry budget convenience pasta items like ramen noodles and mac and cheese here at Trader Joe's. They have a basic macaroni and cheese, just kind of one version, but their ramen selection looked a little bit more fancy, perhaps even a little more healthy than your typical ramen. These foods are found in a lot of prepper pantries because they're so inexpensive and they're quick to cook. They're also comforting to a lot of people as well. Besides pasta and pasta sauce, Trader Joe's has a nice selection of other sauces as well. There was some different things here, some very different items that really looked pretty good. Something like these Thai and Indian sauces could make a really nice prepper pantry meal if you paired them with some canned or freeze-dried meats and vegetables and some of that basmati rice we saw earlier. Sauces, seasonings, and condiments are so important to our prepper pantries because they allow us to create meals out of the other basic items that we store and avoid food fatigue from eating the same thing over and over again. Stores like Trader Joe's can be a good place to find smaller size containers when it comes to things like sauces and condiments, which can be good if the power's out and we can't refrigerate leftovers. A good example of this is these jars of salsa. They're a little bit smaller than your typical grocery store jars. You might be able to use one up in one single meal, especially if you use it as an ingredient. One sauce that doesn't need refrigeration, or at least I never refrigerate it, is soy sauce. I found it a little bit odd that Trader Joe's only had reduced sodium soy sauce, and they had coconut aminos, which can substitute for soy sauce, but they didn't have any regular soy sauce. They did have a very small selection of salad dressings from what I saw. And then near the salad dressings, they also had vinegar. Vinegar is a prepper pantry staple because it lasts forever and it has so many uses, everything from cooking to food preservation to cleaning and medicinal uses. You can get vinegar here at Trader Joe's, but only in the pretty small bottles. They didn't have any of the larger jugs, at least not in this store. Moving on to the breakfast area, one of my favorite breakfast items to store is Just Add Water pancake mix because it's cheap, simple, and filling. And once again, most people like it. It's easy to prepare with just water and a quick flash in the pan, and it's very versatile. You can serve it with different syrups and toppings. You can make breakfast sandwiches or breakfast tacos, or you can even use the mix to make entirely different things altogether, like muffins or beer bread. Unfortunately, the basic pancake mix at Trader Joe's is not a Just Add Water type. This one also needs milk and eggs. And of course, we do store both powdered milk and powdered eggs, but not everyone has these on hand. And in an emergency, sometimes simpler is better. They do have this protein pancake mix, though, that is Just Add Water. And more protein is always a bonus in the prepper pantry. They also had this very interesting ube mochi pancake mix made with purple yams. And this one requires eggs, milk, and oil, but I'll bet my girls would really like these. Another standout prepper pantry staple you can pick up at Trader Joe's in the breakfast aisle is oats. I like to keep both plain oats and some instant oatmeal flavored packets for quick, tasty meals. And Trader Joe's has both of these. Keep in mind, with all of these dry goods like the oats, the pancake mix, the pastas, these aren't packaged for long-term storage like those that you would order from an actual food storage company. So you'll want to repackage your excess supply as you add them to your prepper pantry if you go this route. To go along with your pancakes and oatmeal, Trader Joe's also has a small but decent selection of maple syrup and honey, including Manuka honey. And unlike the dry goods, these are forever foods and they shouldn't need to be repackaged as long as you keep them sealed until you use them and store them in an appropriate climate. Another item that's very good to stock in your prepper pantry and can also go really well with your breakfast foods is peanut butter. And this is one area where I felt like Trader Joe's really stood out. They had a pretty nice selection of peanut and other nut and seed butters. These can provide a good concentrated source of calories, energy, fats, and protein, and they can make other foods a lot more satisfying. Another thing you can add to your prepper pantry to make an emergency breakfast a bit more complete is some fruit. Trader Joe's had a pretty small, limited selection of canned and jarred fruit and applesauce and fruit cups and squeeze pouches, but they did have a little bit. Another thing you really want to stock in your prepper pantry are some kitchen basics. You know, those base ingredients that you can use to make a lot of other foods during times when you can't get them from the grocery store. Like a lot of other things, Trader Joe's had a pretty basic and limited selection of your basic baking staples like flour and organic cane sugars. They had some cooking oils as well as coconut oil and ghee. And of course, seasonings. Every prepper pantry needs seasonings to make the plain foods enjoyable. I was surprised because I feel like most of the Trader Joe's items I see that I put in my mental list of things I want to try when I finally get to Trader Joe's are seasonings. So their seasoning selection was a lot smaller than I expected it to be. But they still had some interesting things there in addition to the basics. Another item I found at Trader Joe's that I think is a great prepper pantry item that I personally think of as a seasoning is nutritional yeast. This is high in protein, B vitamins, and beta-glucan, so it's a great compact nutritional boost that you can store. Trader Joe's didn't have it with the seasonings, though. They had it with the Parmesan cheese in the pasta aisle because a lot of vegans use this as a powdered cheese substitute. People describe it as having a cheesy flavor. Another thing that's pretty important to stock in your prepper pantry that a whole lot of people overlook is snacks. More than anything else, when people reflect back on what they learned after having to rely on their emergency supplies in an actual emergency, the thing I hear most is we should have stored more snacks. Trader Joe's has a pretty robust selection of nuts and trail mixes, which can be good short to medium term food storage items. Keep them in rotation to make sure that they don't go bad. They also have a nice selection of jerky, including beef, turkey, and buffalo varieties. Another spot to check out for your snacking items are the protein bars. These can be great to stash in your bug out bag or your car emergency kit as long as you rotate them out regularly. They can also stand in as a snack or even a small meal replacement during an emergency. Trader Joe's also has an aisle with supplements and nutritional products, things like protein powder. Protein is so important, and most people are looking to add more protein to their prepper pantries. Protein bars and shakes can be a no-cook meal replacement that can help keep your protein intake up if your prepper pantry meals are falling short. And vitamins and supplements can help fill nutritional gaps when we're eating from our prepper pantries and lacking in fresh foods. Of course, when you can't get fresh foods in your diet, the next best thing is always going to be freeze-dried. The nutrients in freeze-dried products are actually often higher than the fresh equivalents. I didn't expect to find freeze-dried foods at Trader Joe's, but they did actually have a nice little selection of freeze-dried fruits and berries. Once again, these are not packaged or meant for long-term storage. The shelf life on these seem to be about a year and a half out, but some of the similar freeze-dried produce that we buy elsewhere in bags can go up to 4 years or more, and it all depends on the packaging materials and methods used. Now, keep in mind that a shorter shelf life doesn't mean it doesn't belong in your pantry. A decades-long shelf life isn't the be-all and end-all. We should be rotating our supply. Foods like these should be used regularly for snacking and in things like recipes and cereal and smoothies. Freeze-dried fruits and berries can also make a wonderful natural food coloring and flavoring if you blend them up into a powder. And even with a 1-year shelf life, you could still build up a 1-year supply if you keep it rotated regularly. Now, finally, let's look at the drinks that can be found at Trader Joe's. The most important by far being bottled water. This is necessary not only for drinking, but also for cooking and hygiene. Trader Joe's does have these 1-gallon bottles of water. A few other standouts here was the coffee section. Can't live without coffee if you're a coffee drinker. And even if you're not, it is a wonderful barter item. They had a pretty nice selection of shelf-stable plant-based milks, but one thing I didn't find here was any kind of shelf-stable dairy milk product, either canned or Tetra Pak or powdered. And for most of us, this is a pretty critical prep to have quite a bit of, so that's a big hole. I'll put my favorite source down below for anyone who's lacking in that department and needs to bulk up. They also had a pretty good selection of juices. The couple of things that stood out to me here for prepper pantry use were the coconut water, which is great for hydration, and these little individual pomegranate juice bottles. Pomegranate juice has a ton of health benefits, and the small bottle means that it's not going to go to waste without refrigeration. While you're filling your prepper pantry, you can't forget about your furry friends, if you've got any. Or even those who aren't furry. If they depend on you, you need to provide for their needs, and that means storing food, water, and medical supplies for our pets. I didn't find the pet section to be really great here, and so unless this is already where you get your pet's food, and in that case, by all means, stock up a little bit. But one thing we were excited to find in the pet section were these freeze-dried pet treats. We love freeze-dried food and treats for our dogs and cats, so I thought these were a great find. Trader Joe's also has a section with things like paper goods, like toilet paper, cleaning supplies, personal care, all of those kind of things. And although these are very important to stockpile in our prepper pantry, I wouldn't really say this is the best place to get any of this stuff, except maybe this Castile soap. This is a very versatile product with lots of different uses that you might not find at your regular store. Of course, in a situation where panic buying has left the shelves empty in the mainstream stores, you never know. This might be a place to check out for some of those things if you're caught off guard and still need something. But The fact that you're here watching this channel tells me you're probably not the type who's going to be caught off guard. This is exactly why we prepare ahead. All in all, it was a good trip. I found some items I wanted to bring home that I'm going to show you in just a minute. Trader Joe's is known for being budget friendly, but there was some instances where I didn't actually think that the prices were that outstanding, but that's coming from a long-time bargain hunter, extreme couponer, and all-around cheapskate. I have come to realize, though, in my old age and wisdom, that there are some things that are worth paying a little bit more for. And Trader Joe's does seem to have overall high quality, healthy options with a lot of organic offerings. Now, it would be a whole different story entirely if the store wasn't an hour away from me. But in the end, this may not be my first choice for prepper pantry shopping, but I certainly hope that it's not going to be my last trip to Trader Joe's. Let me show you what I thought was interesting enough to bring home with me. All right, so here it is. Here's my little mini haul of things that I brought home from Trader Joe's. I'm super excited. So I'm going to start over here. I've got some seasonings because I really think this was where I most had in my mind. I wanted to find some things I'd seen before. So I've got the aglio olio, seasoning for pasta. It's like garlic and would be good on pizza, all sorts of things. And then a mushroom umami seasoning. Love this. Love all things mushroom. Everything but the elote. So this is like a street corn seasoning blend, which I absolutely love these flavors. I've been wanting to try this one. They had this Italian style sofrito seasoning blend. So this has a bunch of stuff in it. You can see, I can't even read that. It's so small. Crispy onions, sun-dried tomatoes, sea salt, garlic, peppers, parsley, rosemary, and sage. Super nice bottle. Can't wait to try that. Crunchy chili onion sprinkle. Okay, so let me tell you, I am excited. So this is a dry sprinkle, but the Trader Joe's crunchy chili onion, which is in like a jar of oil basically, is the one product that I do have from Trader Joe's because my daughter gave me a jar of it. She actually goes there, a lot more often than I do because my oldest daughter, she works down in the same town, so pretty near there. And she gave me a jar of their chili onion, in the oil, and I used it all up because I loved it. So I asked her to get me another one. So that's the one Trader Joe's thing I already had. So when I found they had like a dry seasoning sprinkle of the same thing, I was super excited. And I did get this chicken broth concentrate that I said they had. It's got 12 packets, and I'm going to open this up in a little bit and see. I don't know if it's powder or if it's like a paste or like a liquid or something. So I'm going to check on that in just a minute. Got a hot sauce. This is a green dragon hot sauce. Now, dragons are my thing, guys. You may not know that about me, but I love dragons. I was born in the year of the dragon. So when I was just a little baby, my mom started a dragon collection for me. All sorts of dragon things that she collected for me over the years as I was growing up. And I still have probably most or all of those things. Some of them I think might have broken when I lived in California and we had a little earthquake. But I love all things dragon. So this caught my eye. I also love sauces and, different flavors and stuff. So between the dragon on the bottle and the green hot sauce, I had to try it. Next, I got a couple of these little packets of marinated artichokes. You can feel that they're very dry inside here. So it's not like full of oil or liquid, which I think I'm going to like. I love artichoke hearts, one of my favorite foods in the whole world. So I'm excited to have these. It's similar to a little packet, like a single serve packet that comes with some of our sous vide meals. And I absolutely love those packets in the sous vide meals. So I'm really excited to have this, just to have a little serving of this with me, anytime, or just to have a single serving that I can open up myself because I don't think everyone else in my house really loves artichoke hearts. I did get a couple of their pouch meals to try. So this is a tikka vegetables, and this is a yellow dal, tadka dal, lentils and spices, and this one has cashews, tomatoes, vegetables. These actually say 2 servings per pouch. You can tell they're pretty hefty. There's quite a bit of food. But honestly, 300 or 260 calories would definitely not be too much for one person to eat for one meal, especially in an emergency. But you could also put this over rice and stretch it into, 2 or more meals. Had to try these freeze-dried items for pets. We absolutely love our dogs and our cats, and we love to get them freeze-dried food and freeze-dried things. So these were so cool. So We've got the freeze-dried meatballs, like a treat for the dogs, and those are so cute. 99% beef and beef liver, which is really, really good for the dogs. And this says made with beef born, raised, and harvested in the USA. So that is super, super important. I didn't even notice that. That's really cool. And then this one is a freeze-dried salmon for pets. So this could be for cats too, but if you can see, these are pretty big chunks in there, but you could totally break them up easily. I'm really excited to try these I think our animals are going to love these. I don't know why I didn't buy more. And honestly, guys, I'm looking at this, and maybe this is a little weird, but ingredients, salmon. There's nothing else in this but salmon. It's just salmon that was freeze-dried. They're marketing it for pets, but you know, in an emergency, I'd probably eat that myself. And then speaking of seafood, this is one of their cans of sardines. I think this was the only one they had. Olive oil with smoke flavor. I'm trying to add more sardines into my diet. So I'm trying lots of different because they are so good for you. So good for you. And so I'm trying different brands, different flavors. I thought this one would be good to try. These coconut strips, lightly sweetened. These look really good. I love like the sweetened coconut chips. I like to add them to like tropical snack mixes and things like that made with like freeze-dried fruit and some nuts. These, you can tell, they're nice, thick pieces of coconut. They don't feel like they would be as thin and crispy as a chip. They might be more chewy. I'm really super curious about these, but they look really good. They do have, it says lightly sweetened, but I do feel like they have quite a bit of sugar in them, but that's for 1/4 of the container, and this is a pretty big bag. I would only need a couple, 2, 3 of these, and I would be very more than satisfied. These really caught my eye. Really wanted to have these. This is crispy garlic, and then there is a fried shallots. So I think these are very similar. I'm thinking they're kind of like the French fried, you know, onions, French fried jalapenos, all those things that I really like to have for garnishing things, for on top of casseroles, for putting on salads. But if you look at these ingredients, it's mostly just, there's not any kind of flour or carb ingredients. It's just, this one's just garlic, rice bran oil, and salt. So it's a type of oil. And then this one's just shallots and palm oil. So this, I really, really want to try these. I just think they sound so good, and they're similar to something we like to use, but probably healthier. And then we've got one of their noodles. So this is squiggly knife cut style noodles. I have seen these noodles in some recipes, noodles like these, and I did want to try them, so I figured I'd grab the Trader Joe's. This one says with soy and sesame sauce, so they must come with their own packet of sauce or seasoning, just like a typical, you know, generic ramen. So it does have the noodles, wheat flour, water, and salt. So there's no like fat, oils, things like that added to these noodles. And then all the other ingredients are the sauce packet. So I feel like these noodles are probably a little bit better than your typical ramen, but I mean, who knows? You know, sometimes we're going to eat things that are not 100% good for us, and you can always doctor this up with some freeze-dried meat and veggies and make it a lot more healthy. But I wanted to try these. And then I did get these 2 pancake mixes that I was pretty excited about. So the buttermilk protein pancake mix, protein is so important to add into your prepper pantry, and we are, you know, eating a lot more protein these days. So this has 10 grams of protein, 29 grams of whole grain in every serving of 2 pancakes. So it's still pancakes, but it's a little healthier. I just wanted to try this and see how it is. And then, of course, this ube mochi pancake and waffle mix. I think my daughters will really like this. And my youngest daughter absolutely loves making waffles in our little Dash, like, shaped waffle makers. So I'm going to see if she'll try this. And then, of course, their mac and cheese, the Trader Joe's mac and cheese. I like to try all the different brands, all the different, you know, brands of basic mac and cheese. I've always loved it, you know, growing up. My kids love it. I don't remember the price on this. This may not have been super, super inexpensive compared to like the Walmart brand, which is actually really good, but I did want to give theirs a try. And next I found this pepita salsa. So this is salsa with pepitas, which is like pumpkin seeds. I actually thought, looking at the color of this, that maybe it was like a pumpkin salsa and had pumpkin in it, but looking at the ingredients, I do not see any pumpkin unless I'm missing it. So, but still, it's going to be good. I love pepitas. This is going to be something super, super yummy. I'm sure of it. Truffle aioli, like this. I love aiolis. I love truffles. I mean, come on, you can't lose. This sounds so, so good. And then we have got freeze-dried strawberry pieces covered in strawberry yogurt, candy coating. This looks really good. I probably won't eat these. This will be a little too sweet for me, but we got something similar to this from, I think, Sam's Club or Walmart that my kids really liked. So I'm going to let them try this and see how they like this. And then I did get their Hearts of Palm because I've been trying different brands of Hearts of Palm just to see which I like best. They're hard to find where we live. The glass jars are impossible to find and they're expensive to order. So I've heard the cans aren't as good, but I want to try a few different brands and see how they are. Hearts of Palm are a pretty decent little sort of snack food to have. They're pretty healthy. Not something a lot of people are familiar with, I don't think. I did get the eggplant to try. The eggplant with tomatoes and onions sounds like it could be good. It looks like a pretty healthy food here. It's got fiber in it. It's got a good amount of potassium. It's all made up of vegetables. You can see it's got eggplant, tomato, salt, parsley, garlic, red pepper, not a lot of different stuff. And product of Bulgaria. That's interesting. A delectable Mediterranean dish. And it says equally delicious served cold, at room temperature, or heated. So I like that it's it's flexible like that, especially for emergencies. You could just crack open this can. It's got a pop top and you could just eat it right out of the can. And it would be something healthy and different. I did get a couple of these cartons. These are the Tetra Pak cartons of almond, cashew, and macadamia nut beverage. So this is like a nut milk. So my girls will like this. I will like this. Look, 1 cup has only 30 calories and only 1 gram. Actually, 1 gram of carbs, says less than 1 gram of dietary fiber. So less than 1 gram of net carbs, we'll say that. 10% of calcium. I think this is going to be worth trying and just seeing how we like it. And then I did get one of the coconut waters. My daughter really likes coconut water. It is really good for hydration. You do have to watch the carbs though, because it does have 11 grams of carbs and sugars, and that is per serving. There's 2 servings in this little carton. And then, of course, I did get 2 of these cute little individual serving size bottles of pomegranate juice. I think the Palm Wonderful sells a small, well, theirs is probably bigger than 8 ounces. But my daughter loves pomegranate juice, so these will be great for her to take for her lunches and stuff like this. I only got 2 of them just to make sure that she likes them, but I thought these were a super cute find. I like pomegranate juice too. And that is all of the things I picked up on that one little trip to Trader Joe's. And here are those little broth packets. Let's see. So I can feel that this is like a thick liquid or a paste. It seems like maybe like a thin paste or a thick liquid. So that is pretty exciting. That's pretty interesting. I'm excited to try these. This could even be something that you could travel with. If you were careful not to let it get popped or punctured, this would be something that you could take with you so that you'd be able to have I love a cup of chicken broth just like when I'm sick or a lot of times. So this is super exciting. There's all the packets in there. We did buy several other things that I don't have up here to show you because they were frozen items. Definitely not prepper pantry items. That's one thing Trader Joe's is known for, is their vast selection of ready to eat and frozen foods. And that's part of the reason that they don't have a big variety of canned, like fruits and vegetables, for instance. They go with the quality of frozen over canned. One thing we got that we're super excited to try out is some frozen cauliflower rice. They're flavored ones. There's a Mexican variety and a fried rice variety. And there was a lot more things that we would have brought home if we had had the freezer space. Let me know down below what your favorite Trader Joe's items are, even if it's just some that you saw today in this video. And leave me a hibiscus flower down below to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Be sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and then check out the description box below the video for links to any resources that I talked about today, as well as our prepper resource guide and any coupon codes or discounts that we have to share with you to help you on your way to better preparedness. And then check out this right here next for some more store-by-store prepping guides. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.